Britain's longest living wife guy died on Friday, April the 9th. Coasting on the coattails of the much younger Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, he was a lifelong devotee to the absurd pageantry and class system that rules this normal island. Born to a family full of weak-chinned failures in 1921, Philip was forced out of his native Greece after his dad bungled military operations during the Greco-Turkish War of the early 1920s. Unlike the UK's forelock-tugging citizenry, Greeks have the decency to overthrow their monarch when presented with his manifold stupidities. Later in life, many of his direct relatives would prove they were still not cured of stupidity and racism when they all turned Nazi, to the surprise of very few. Taught the finer tricks of weaseling your way into a life of luxury by his uncle, Louis Mountbatten, Philip, at the age of 18, started an entirely sweat-free correspondence with Elizabeth, the daughter of another degenerate house and 13 years old at the time, setting an enduring precedent that if our boys do it, it's legal. He eventually married Elizabeth when she turned 21. A noted seaman with intimate knowledge of international waters, he stayed safely out of danger for the duration of World War II by prancing around on boats and was given a medal for waving a searchlight around. After his marriage to Elizabeth, Philip and his uncle repeatedly tried to change the name of the royal house to his own adopted name of Mountbatten Windsor, thus proving to every Guardian columnist's satisfaction he was indeed an early feminist. For his hard work of cutting ribbons and a living symbol of class stratification, he was paid an annual sum out of public taxation, despite no one ever being asked whether or not they wanted the increasingly withering skeleton at their feast. Philip was perhaps best known for instituting the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, a thinly veiled programme that rewarded the spurious notion of meritocracy, as well as providing an alibi to hang around with teenagers. Turning his hand to philanthropy, that well-known excuse of the rich and idle to not pay any taxes while keeping the peasants at bay, Philip was never able to keep his racism and vicious personality at bay for long. Once asking, "Are you still chucking spears of Australian Aboriginals?" the Prince was always ready to showcase his longing for the 19th century. In his latter years, he still showed his contempt for the people of this stupid country by running them over and getting away with it. Being forced into apologising by the palace PR machine, he voluntarily surrendered his driving licence rather than face criminal prosecution. He is survived by his ancient waifu, the heir to the throne and alleged wife killer, possibly Britain's best known vicious snob, a Pizza Express fan with strong ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and a son too stupid to succeed in television despite his royal title, all of whom exist in a network of wealth and patronage that should belong to the British people, and all those extorted by the empire. Until and unless the people of rainy Fash Island take the example of the Greeks before them, we will be settled with him and his brood forever. In his tomb at Westminster, dead Philip waits dreaming.
Pull one out.
F's in the chat.
R.I.P. to a real one.
Dicks up for Philip.
It's what he would have wanted, yeah. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, yeah, okay, so hello and welcome to Podcasting's Praxis. I'm David. I'm here this week with Rob.
Hi.
And Jamie.
Alright.
And we are joined by the cast of Leftover Podcast. I've got Aarjan and Nikita. How you doing?
Alright, how are you?
Yeah. Can't complain. It's been a fun few days. Some trepidation around posting, but yeah. It's Philip's deed. So it's been.
I mean, why did you have trepidation about posting? I mean, these are the golden posting hours we're living in this week.
No, that's very
The golden posting hours will be when Liz finally goes.
Oh fuck! I can't.
Yeah,
Honestly,
those would imagine.
Logging off for a whole month when that happens.
Oh no, I'm staying online. I'm just taking speed and just posting shit.
Oh fuck yeah! No, it's definitely been enlightening to see some elements of the commentariat lose their fucking minds over this. We do actually have to look forward to at the end of the episode. I've got a themed comment or commentariat all about Big Fildo. and the responses to his death. And good God, the commentary are not okay.
But I mean, it's all just a dress rehearsal. This, I mean, this is just the soft open before Brenda.
Andrew finally goes. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Oh,
the
yeah.
real sort of state funeral that they're going to hold for Andrew.
Oh, that's going to be.
Maybe
fucking
they'll
good.
just like quietly tip him into a skip in Sandringham.
It's more than the cunt deserves.
Didn't they have him on for an interview?
They did. He was interviewed by quite a few places, I think, actually. He's been around a lot more than he has been.
I'm not sure if he did actual interviews or if he just like saw a camera and gravitated towards it. Like, I'm not sure he did like a...
We see that
mean,
thing with
but
the
I mean-
BBC. The BBC had like an interview with like all of Phil's kids, and they had, for some reason, Andrew was the only one where they disabled comments on the article.
I mean, my favourite
Very strange.
stupid controversy, I think, of the last 24 hours is whether or not Prince Andrew gets to wear his fancy admiral uniform.
I mean,
Which he
why
got for
wouldn't
what,
he?
like-
He
He
was in a
literally got
war.
it for his birthday. He got it for his birthday. He was made an honorary vice admiral on his 55th birthday.
Oh,
That's amazing.
you love to
The
see it.
shit that you get, you get handed to you if you're a prince.
Oh,
Man.
does it match the sailor's outfit that Jeffrey Epstein was photographed in sometime?
Yeah, how breathable is the fabric?
Oh,
I mean, it's in line to like celebrate the death of his dad because apparently Philip was a Lord High Admiral, which is I think several rungs above.
High on what exactly?
adrenochrome.
Exactly. I think the real question is actually how long ago he actually died before they announced it.
I'm pretty convinced that we've went through at least 6 clones this year alone.
Exactly. He's like transferred from like hospital to hospital, and like you get these increasingly like reanimated skeleton like pictures of him. You know, like I don't know if any of you've played Bloodborne, but like the final boss of the DLC is called Orphan of Kos. And like I just played a lot of Bloodborne recently. Sorry, like my brain just goes immediately to there. But like he's like this fucking eldritch monstrosity, you know, which looks like this kind of skeleton thing holding this massive placenta weapon, and that's just like immediately the first thing that comes to mind. And I was like fighting this guy on the night before Philip died, and then like I woke up and then I see the notification.
It's 'cause you defeated
I
him.
was like, shit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm sorry. Oops.
I mean, my
never
personal
mind.
theory is that he did die due to the consequences of COVID, but that was more because the schools are closed, so it was less easy for him to harvest.
Because Epstein stopped procuring him with young people.
I'm so happy to do this episode because you can't libel the dead, and it's just
Oh, really? Okay.
I looked it up. I looked it up for this specific episode. Libel the dead.
Winston Churchill, here we come.
Oh, yeah. Fucking. What else have we had off the back of this? Then, they're pushing for another fucking yacht. They want another yacht.
Oh, God.
This is another one of these Tory obsessions. It comes by every once in a while that they want to build a new royal yacht, Britannia, to show I don't know what.
Yeah, some Tory's mate like obviously owns a shipbuilder and
Yeah.
like just chances his arm every now and again, like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the Queen seems sad this year. We should build her a yacht.
So that it can do wheelies on the Thames.
Yeah.
That would be the only reason I would support a yacht if it just promised to do wheelies in the Thames all the time.
You just get a normal yacht and just weight it too much on one side. Sorted.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be any good because it wouldn't be able to get into the international waters. It's the Henry Jackson Society, which are a bunch of very normal, not at all insane lunatic right-wing bunch, are also behind this. And they did research, fuck knows what that was, and they said that a new royal yacht Britannia would be a massive boon for global Britain's soft power around the world.
Yeah, that sounds like a thing.
They constantly trot out that fucking soft power bit as if that means anything.
They just made that up, didn't they?
Pretty much.
I mean, you've got hard power, which is parking a fucking gunboat outside the bay, like we used to do. And then obviously soft power is what if it was just like the Prince's yacht without any fucking guns on it. Yeah, it's just pointless.
Soft power is the 2012 Olympic ceremony, right?
Yes.
Whenever I hear Henry Jackson Society, like, I don't know if he's still one of the directors, but he was for a long time, was Douglas Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And like whenever I hear about it, it just always makes me think of like about 5 or 6 years ago. I was living in this house with this guy who was doing an internship at the Henry Jackson Society, and he believed in white genocide, and he at some point got a map from his workplace, which was entitled "Terrorism and Islamism in the MENA region," and he just put it up in the toilet, and it's literally just a map of like Middle East and North Africa, with each country color coded to the level of terrorist threat that it poses, and with a little write up of like the number of terrorist attacks, the amount of oil, I shit you not, and a little blurb entitled "Strength of Islamism" in each country, he put that up in the toilet just to kind of trigger me, supposedly. And when I took it down, he ended up, like, long story short, he ended up, like, physically assaulting me. This is, like, whenever I hear about Henry Jackson Society, that's literally the first thing that always comes to mind. His name, I shouldn't say his name. But
was it Robbie Travers?
No.
Was it Clive Normal?
He had a very normal name, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, normal group of people doing normal things. At work and in the home. Oh.
Speaking of normal people doing normal things, did you see that? I think it was somewhere this week that MPs were spent a whole day of 7.5 hours from 2:30 in the afternoon to 10 in the evening doing nothing but paying tributes to Prince Philip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weren't they getting paid like £162 to do it?
No, that was
the Lords, and they were getting paid that to fucking video call in.
Yeah.
When you say tribute, do you mean like the tweet?
Oh no!
Oh.
Oh dear.
I'm sure that room smells bad enough without that. Fucking hell.
But like for that, they should actually be paid. Like that's just hard work.
Other tributes, not like the tweet, which have been fucking just unhinged. National Rail.
Would you say they've been pouring in?
You are. So National Rail's website decided that they were going to grayscale everything, which meant that you couldn't fucking read anything because all the text is like grey already, so it was like grey text on a grey background. Great.
There was a guy on Twitter who was tweeting at them saying, "Look, I'm visually impaired and I literally cannot read this website when everything is in fucking grayscale." And then National Rail got back to him and said, "Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to fix this over the weekend, but we'll have a look on Monday."
Wow.
Just excellent. Fucking brilliant. Keith got into trouble as well because he made his tribute before Johnson did.
Premature.
I thought you were going to say
premature
before Philip died. I thought you were going to say before Philip died, he got his tribute in already.
See, I would respect that. I would genuinely respect that.
That would be shitposter level.
I think it was like fucking 7 minutes before Johnson tweeted his out or some shit like that.
No, it was 17. It was 17. It was a worse
17
crime.
minutes, Dan. An even worse crime, far worse. Obviously, this is a royal protocol developed over, centuries that you do not tweet out as the leader of opposition. Fucking deeply normal. Is there anything else we're missing there?
I mean probably. It's been a very normal week.
Tell you what was really normal for me was driving through town and seeing the fucking billboards on the day that he died.
I live in the country, so we haven't got like electric billboards.
No,
what was that? Can you? Because you sent me a photo of that. What the fuck was going on there?
Yeah, no, they were fucking everywhere. Like, I seen a couple up my way, which was weird as fuck because, like, I don't exactly live in a notably nice place. It's a bit of a shithole, and it's just really weird to see that kind of fun and stuff actually being put up there. But then I looked down south, there was a load of pictures on Twitter, and like they were fucking everywhere. I think Birmingham.
Was it just like all the council billboards and shit, or something? Just like this fucking grinning skeleton.
No, it's even better than that. It wasn't like mandated by the government or anything. It's just the company that owns all the electronic billboards decided off their own back to put Prince Philip on every one of them in the country.
Billboards, bus stops, all of it. It was so
it's very
fucking weird.
Clear Channel just vying for a royal charter, I guess.
It was like it was some fucking Half-Life 2 shit.
What was very funny to me though was just there was someone just put out a tweet and I think that was like the headline was about how viewing figures plummet after the BBC and ITV's wall-to-wall coverage of Prince Philip following his death. And I don't know why, but it was just like the wall-to-wall coverage was just so funny to me. I think like I get the feeling though that like generally like the public like the establishment has been way more sycophantic about it than the public in general has, I think.
Definitely.
Whether it's journalists or like, whatever, Gabby Hinsliff, like having to write some Prince Philip was a feminist icon article in The Guardian.
That was changed so quickly.
And like what was also quite remarkable is like how, for the longest time, like this guy was like the butt of all jokes as like being the most racist, comical figure, figure of ridicule, even on like places like Mock the Week, like the most normie shit. And now suddenly it's like haram to like say that he was a racist. Like you can't say that apparently because a man is dead. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
like,
it's the just liberal condition, isn't it, that you cannot speak ill of the dead? And it's like, motherfucker, you can't libel them. You can say what you like.
It's like I was saying a few weeks ago on the episode about when Princess Diana died, and the sort of papers just turned on like instantly. Whereas when she was alive, they were just constantly like hounding her, and it was like, oh look, she's like with a different guy this week. Look at her, what a slag, and all this. And then she died, and suddenly it's like, no, she was always the princess of our hearts. The nation will never be the same again. And it's the same with Philip. For like decades, we've just had like jokes constantly everywhere about what a racist he was, and then like overnight, it's just suddenly, no, it was banter. He was the legend of banter.
Yeah, didn't
gaffs. Like the number of times I've heard the word gaffs.
Yeah, that's one of those
like
words.
Very deliberate.
That gaff is one of those words that only appears in newspapers in this country. Like, it's like howler. I mean, Prince Philip and his howlers.
But did you see? I mean, I was happy to sort of see him return to form as well, and that I can just loathe him again. Was Was it Prince Harry who was just like, yeah, he was a great guy with the bands and the barbecue?
Yeah, that was him.
What the fuck?
I left the country because of racism, but you know, I love my racist granddad.
And I'm sure the only barbecue Prince Philip ever lit was just like torching a village somewhere.
No, I only ever seen service in Italy. You don't do that in Italy.
My favourite thing that's happened this week is the BBC having to set up a streamlined complaints system. Because we were getting so many people emailing them in about the TV just being nothing but Prince Philip.
It broke all records for complaints they've ever had about any single issue.
Well, and then people got very angry about the fact that there was an automated form because they thought it was disrespectful to Prince Philip that people could complain about it.
BBC 4 had no programs on, just a card telling you that the programs were available on iPlayer. It's disrespectful if they broadcast them, but if you go and look them up on iPlayer, that's fine.
Rip Prince Philip, you have loved iPlayer.
Yeah. Presumably, if you go on iPlayer, you can watch Mrs. Brown's Boys in black and white, and then it's 10 times more respectful.
I don't know. I don't know if this is true, but apparently, this was just a tweet. So it could just be someone just shooting the shit, but someone said that apparently Kiss Tree were playing dance classics, but slowed down versions on the piano. On the day that Prince Philip died, it's David Guetta bangers, slowed down.
That is genuinely the worst genre of music. Slow down covers of up-tempo music.
This reminds me of one of my absolute favorite things ever. Did you see that David Guetta performance in honor of Black Lives Matter? And he's on some.
Oh, of course. Shout out to his family. This is real happening, man.
There was that clip going around of one of the radio stations where they were playing dance music and they just sort of interrupted it for a second to announce his death, and then just comes back in.
I mean, if you're mandated to announce it, then that's the only way to do it, I reckon.
Yeah.
It was a pretty decent transition as well.
Just line it up with a drop.
Yeah, people were kicking off on the day as well because the BBC were just, no, that's it. TV is over. We can never do it again now that the Lord of Bants has died. But Channel 4 were just we'll just stop on the telly for a second, just let you know Prince Philip's dead. Now back to flog it.
Yeah, but did you see the most popular show on the day? Therefore, was Gogglebox, and what I would have loved to have seen was a Gogglebox where they were all watching the BBC Black Card with Prince Philip is dead, and everybody just losing their fucking shit.
Oh, right. Shall we talk about something that's not the Royals?
Well, yeah. For a brief while, I think we'll get back into the Royals.
Yes, there is no escape.
Has anything else happened this week?
Yeah. Well, for one, I wanted to say absolute solidarity with all the British gas engineers who were either sacked today or who, signed new contracts because they need to provide for themselves and their families, and they need food and shelter, as the completely disgraceful fire and rehire took effect today. So about 300 to 400 have refused to sign. So they're out of a job now, and it's fucking gross. It's really fucking appalling. Just not a peep from of course not Her Majesty's loyal bootlickers, or the Tories you expect, but just fucking shit, man.
You don't really expect much from fucking Labour at this point either, though, do you?
No.
But
I think Starmer might have done one tweet with some kind of mild solidarity, but then done nothing substantive about it.
Yeah.
Well, he's got his ongoing meltdown to contend with, though, hasn't he? He's very busy.
Yeah, he's preoccupied.
You know what I mean? With the cowards in the shadow cabinet.
Oh yeah, leaking from the shadow cabinet. I mean, surely
know.
that kind of gross behavior.
My favorite thing about that was there was certain people in the shadow cabinet were going like, "Oh, these sort of leaks really damage the party." It's like, yeah, you would fucking know.
Wait, what was this? I feel like I missed it.
Keith had a meltdown in a shadow cabinet like Zoom call apparently. Shouted at everyone.
Really?
Shouted at everyone.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
God.
Can you imagine Keith Starmer with a cob on? It must be terrifying.
I want to know how red his face got.
Oh god, this is the thing though. Like, I was like speaking to a friend recently, and like, yeah, I got told apparently based on good intel that like the reason that he gets so red is, I mean, because he just gets really nervous. I don't know, like being the leader of the opposition, it feels like it's maybe like not the best place to be.
He is incredibly awkward though. Like just every photo of him.
Such a bad public speaker, and he's got like the full-on Swinson effect going. You know, like the more the public have seen of him, and like his popularity ratings have fucking plummeted.
Yeah.
But like it's like.
There was a whole spate of articles in the Huffington Post to celebrate 1 year of Keith, and like all the
really,
all the people on his side were like briefing that it's been a rough year, but we're really looking forward to like going out and having Keith meet more people and do live events, and that'll make things better. God. And I'm just like, oh god, no, that's going to make everything worse.
Maybe they're acceleration.
You've heard the story like that. I think he did during the leadership race, where he's talking about this one night he had to stay in a hotel during Valentine's Day. And then like ended up in the wrong room and someone was already sleeping there, and it is genuinely like the worst told. Like, my man is just not a good public speaker.
He's not at all.
I would feel sorry for him if he was like less of a fucking cunt, and if he hadn't completely destroyed the entire fucking left movement that Labour had built under Corbyn. But like, yeah, the guy is genuinely just really fucking bad at his job. And I reckon his PR people must hate him. Like, because every picture that you see out of him, like, just gets more ridiculous. I don't know if it's just my brain starting to malfunction increasingly.
He just looks
but like the guy just looks so bad. Like,
have you seen the picture of him wielding a ladoo?
No.
Oh no! A few weeks ago, he went to my mum's local temple, and there's pictures of him doing like the prayer hands in front of a statue of like Swam and Orion.
No.
And there's like just a picture of like some guy who's got this like basket full of ladoos, and he's like holding one up, but he's doing it really threateningly.
He wants to throw it in jail. I don't know. And he's just like getting increasingly more sort of manic, like like just getting more desperate, like increasing like relaunches as like the party of law and order, and then like the David Lynch party, with his fucking new red wall, get up. Like really sort of like stylistic fashion photography. I don't know, but it's Heath, and then like and every time, like, what's really funny to me is like he does all these relaunches on the Times behind a fucking paywall every single time. Like, who is his fucking audience? Who is his audience?
I mean,
don't
technically
understand.
it's supposed to be like Red Wall seniors, Red Wall racists, whatever that is. But I'm like, I don't know the circulation numbers off the top of my head, but I can't imagine many people in like those areas, like the ex-industrial areas in the north, even the 50-year-old racists. They don't fucking read the Times or the Telegraph, do they?
Definitely not. No.
I mean, it's all just shared through Facebook, I suppose. But then, like, how does that reach them if it's all behind the fucking paywall?
He's in the Times, and he's just basically broadcasting to like Matt Ford and people like that.
And like 5 TERFs.
Yeah.
And Peter Walker, like, I mean, Matt Ford is like probably just clapping like a seal increasingly, like every time like Kirsten like says something, just because like he just gets excited, but like, like now they've just gone back to praising his performance at PMQs because this is literally all they fucking have. And I'm just waiting for the penny to drop after the May election. I don't know it's like in 3 weeks' time.
No, I think after the May election, they'll still, like, that's when the ball will really start rolling. Like, because they want, like, Yvette Cooper or some other fucking really right-wing ghoul, obviously, in power.
Oh, yeah. They're going to get someone else even more right-wing in than Starmer, but I reckon Starmer's gone after the May election. And I've been saying this since the start of the year. Like, Labour is going to get wiped out. Absolutely wiped out next month.
Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. I think so, but I'm not... to me, like, I would definitely say yes, but because COVID's made everything so fucking weird, I can't tell anymore.
Yeah, there's maybe less certainty going about it, yeah, but, like, it still looks fucking likely. I'd be very surprised if Labour walked away for the May elections and went, oh, well, we did well. Well, actually, no, they will say that anyway, even if they haven't.
They'll blame Corbyn. They'll blame Corbyn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So I think if they do badly enough in the elections, like, Starmer might just do the full Harold Holt and just walk into the sea.
Oh God.
Yeah, there was one other tale I kind of wanted to mention before we move on to tonight's main story. That was put out today in the Byline Times, which does increasingly more like good shit. By Nafis Ahmed, that the government
he's very good.
Yeah. The government's commission on countering extremism has a new lead commissioner, a guy called Robin Simcox, who is whose former job included being the Margaret Thatcher Fellow at the Heritage Foundation.
Love to be the Margaret Thatcher Fellow.
Was he? What does that involve? Is he in charge of honking if she's deed?
No, I think that's like his job is to like gather all the unholy components to bring her back, essentially, like the crystal skull and the whatever. But yeah, so he's going to be the new commissioner on countering extremism, and he's got a very pleasant history, speaking to a series of increasingly shitty racist hate groups, essentially. All of whom regularly circulated white supremacist literature over the past 10 years. He also promotes the racist Great Replacement ideology, and is, for fans of Chapo, and I think for fans of TF and by now as well, he's also he has close ties to Sebastian Gorka and his wife.
I need to see what she looks like. Hold on. But I just want to see what the Gorka wife is.
See, when you mentioned people gathering stuff together for like to bring Thatcher back, I just remembered that MP with the giant cardboard Thatcher. There was pictures of going around.
Yeah. Oh God! Oh my God!
I mean, I say cardboard. It was probably originally printed on just regular paper.
Jesus. Fuck.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when
wasn't he also associated with the Henry Jackson Society?
Yeah, I think he's a member of that. I'm not sure on that one. But holy,
is that like one of those perspective tricks from Lord of the Rings?
He's quite big. He's very big. Sorry, I suppose.
He looks like Penn and Teller.
Wait, this picture, I think I know the picture you're talking about. He looks about twice her size.
Yeah, it's very Pretty Patel and her husband.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, that's not a surprise. Unsurprisingly, he also, this guy who's the new head of countering extremism, is also a very big fan of the Prevent program, and which is, of course, just a excuse to mess with people,
Muslims,
mess with people who believe in Islam or other, faiths who do not fall within the acceptable spectrum of British white racism.
Whiteness.
Oh God, did you see that thing this week about Prevent? What was it, Quilliam?
Quilliam has closed their doors.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because that may or may not be the topic of our next episode on Leftover.
Oh, nice.
Because
very subtle, right in the middle.
They'd done some sort of thing where they were funded by was it MI5 or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think from what I know, like post 7/7, like MI5 gave out a bunch of money to a bunch of people who claim to be like counter-terrorist think tanks or whatever, but like they literally like never did anything. Like that's the thing. Like they didn't actually do any work aside from like hire Tommy Robinson at some point. Like it's and like oftentimes it's like ex-jihadis who do this kind of shit, which is also pretty funny to me. So yeah,
because there's a thing there was a thing going around where they'd written a report complaining that Prevent was like too soft or something like that, wasn't
it? Sounds very Imagine it was.
Yeah, fuck's sake. Yeah, okay, cool. So the Home Office is being normal and continuing to function as it does.
I think this guy, Nafiz Ahmed, he I think about a month ago he wrote this expose on Majid Nawaz's like US dark money funding.
Oh yeah, he did. That was a really good piece as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's not really surprising, obviously, but it's good to kind of have that shit documented and like well researched, and he's very good at that. Yeah.
Right, Rob, shall you take us into the weird and wonderful world of the main topic?
Yeah. Well, once again, I don't blame Jamie for these things, but I felt I was inspired by Jamie this week because a couple of episodes ago we were talking, I can't remember why, but we were talking tangentially about the royal family, and Jamie, you said probably the Queen's favourite thing is sitting in her big throne and counting money. I think
Are you sure? That doesn't sound like something I would say.
So what I thought, I got sidetracked, as I sometimes do for this pod, and I thought, well, why don't we look at the Queen's counting money and where that comes from, and like how much of it
comes
there
from
is.
Us.
Yes.
Yeah, essentially.
But sorry, don't let me just, you know what I mean? Don't let me do my thing of like, well, that's wrapped that up. Let's all go home early.
Well, it's time for commentary ads. Bye. No, the story I want to tell today is not the whole of the wealth of the Queen, because that's way too big of a topic. But I want to talk about the Crown estates, which is generally the portion where most of the money comes from. So this is the legal entity in charge of all the lands and holdings in the UK that belong to the reigning British monarch, which makes it one of the largest landowners in the UK and includes nearly 2 million acres of farmland, the Ascot Racecourse, all of Regent Street, all the buildings, and all the gold and silver naturally occurring on the British Isles, including Northern Ireland, because that also belongs to the Crown. This doesn't. It's not run out of Buckingham Palace itself, but it's run by a semi-independent legal entity called the Crown Estates, run by 8 commissioners who have all the powers of ownership, but are not the actual owners. The actual owners remain the monarch of the day and essentially the extended Windsor clan as it exists.
So this is another one of these things where, it's like, it's just absolute deference where it's not actually required.
Yeah. So currently, how it works is that all revenue per year from the Crown Estates is split 75-25 between the government and the monarch. 75% of the government and 25% of the monarch. Normally it's 15, but they bumped it to 25 for the current, I think, for another 7 years, because the extra 10% is supposed to repair Buckingham Palace, and that's why she's getting dozens of millions of pounds extra every year.
That's why she tried to claim her heating costs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this is the new system. If you remember, in the past there was the old system called the civil list, and this was where like they would get annual salaries from just directly from the government, and that was always a pain in the ass because people correctly got mad every year. So now there's this like property-based empire that just pays them rent, like that just pays them 25% of the rent of all the properties owned by the Crown. And just very important, it does not include any of the art or most of the jewelry that belongs to the crown, which is in the Royal Collection Trust or the personal property of Elizabeth Windsor, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So essentially the Crown Estates came about, blah, blah. There's a long history. Essentially, before the Glorious Revolution, all government was paid for out of the Crown lands, so lands personally held by the Crown, feudal right and taxes. But after the Glorious Revolution, and especially after George III, who possibly had blue piss, but definitely lost the US colonies, but he gets into so much debt, which is today's equivalent of about 500 million quid's worth of debt, and he strikes a deal with Parliament. Parliament pays off the entirety of his debt, and in exchange the Crown Estates are set up, which means that the Crown not only gets a salary, and the Parliament controls the estates in name, but in right they still belong to the Crown. So essentially,
does that mean the Queen gets a P60 every year?
No, not so. Probably not, I imagine. But
one rule for them. Fuck's sake.
And this was sort of like a handshake arrangement at the time between George III and Parliament. And essentially, every time there's a new monarch, they do the same handshake. They reinstate the handshake agreement made by George III. And that is what the Crown Estates is, essentially.
It's entirely normal.
Yeah. An important thing to realize is that because in right all these things still belong to the Crown, if we were to create a socialist republic of the United Kingdom and we didn't guillotine all the landlords and we didn't change our legal system, the House of Windsor would essentially overnight become the world's largest landowner because all the property would revert back to them in practice as well as in title, if you get what I mean.
Right, which is why expropriation is a necessary facet of a revolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of this is currently regulated on the Crown Estate Act of 1961. It hasn't been updated since 1961 because obviously that's not necessary because the world hasn't changed. And the Crown is not allowed to... The Crown Estate may only invest in land, so literal land property, and can hold UK government bonds and cash. They're not allowed to invest in the stock market or in land outside the UK. And they're also not allowed to borrow money, but they found a way around that because what they did manage to do, because if you remember like the Panama Papers and stuff, so much of the... so much like offshore bullshit goes on in British Crown colonies, and because those are technically part of the domain of the Crown, they can set up limited partnerships in the British Virgin Islands and other places.
But are they allowed? Are they allowed to sell NFTs?
They haven't.
Finally, a reason to update the Crown Estate Act.
Turn that picture of Prince Philip in the car into an NFT.
So, like, just to give you an overview of what the Crown Estates hold, the current portfolio, and again, this is just land and real estate, and some offshore shit we'll get into, but it's valued at about 14 billion quid. In the last fiscal year, they turned over 345 million quid's worth of profit, of which 86 million went to the Crown and the rest went to the state.
So 14 billion how many tests and traces is that?
That's about half, I think.
Jesus,
a bit less than half, yeah.
So I read the financial reports because they have to report to Parliament because of the way this thing is set up. And if you read it, it's really weird because there's no sign of them saying anywhere, oh, by the way, 25% of the money we make goes to the Crown. Like, that's just not mentioned because it all goes to the Treasury first and then they cut off 25% to go to Buckingham Palace. So it's like... At every step, if you try to read up on this thing, what they're trying to do, which is what aristocracy in the UK and pretty much everywhere is really good at, they try to hide the fact of how much it's worth and especially who the owners are. And one of the lines that really struck me is in the material issue section, they talk about the challenges facing it, but they also, in which there's a line that says, climate change could be bad for our rural holdings, but may also bring new opportunities to create customer value.
Customer value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's essentially because the way the Crown Estates are set up, and it wouldn't surprise you to know that their leading instruction is to make a profit every year. It's much less to do with sustainability or like looking after the tenants who live in houses built on Crown land.
So how is climate change going to be good?
Climate change is going to be an opportunity for profit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, specifically in case
think of how many more royal yachts you could fit when the oceans are higher.
So that's why Prince Charles is importing apples from New Zealand for his duchy brand.
Yeah.
So they've got, so Prince Charles, I think this is separate to all of this, has his food brand that I think some of the money gets funneled back into his charities or something.
They import Duchy Originals, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, and they import apples in from New Zealand, which just seems kind of silly.
Yeah,
because we can grow them here, but
that's not apples that are being imported from. that's something is being brought across the seas.
Have you seen the price of these Wayfair apples? Fucking hell.
Only the finest Antipodean adrenochrome that gets brought into
adrenochrome from the South Pacific. It's
very rare. It's very rare.
It hits different. It hits
started over on the Lolita Express.
But yeah. The way they think they're going to make a lot more money out of climate change is because there's a big switch. Well, not in the UK because it's very slow, but there's a big switch going on to offshore wind power. And the way that's going to make a lot of money for the Crown is that all offshore land, the seabed, all of it belongs to the Crown. All of it.
But she rules the waves, isn't it?
Sorry?
No, don't ignore that. It was not funny.
So there's already on Crown land. It's all leased out. Like they don't do any of this shit in person. They're just vampire-like collecting rents. There are 30 operational wind farms already generating 5% of all UK electricity. And there was a 2010 parliamentary report on the Crown Estates, which was the last time anyone in Parliament bothered to look into this fucking thing. And they note that there is widespread concern over the Crown Estate's monopoly position when it comes to all marine development, because essentially you cannot create a wind park without the Crown Estates and therefore Brenda saying that you can, which is just entirely normal.
Is this why the tidal thing in Cardiff never really fucking took off, because it's tidal and therefore not on the seabed?
No, they also own that. They own the rights underneath Cardiff. That particular project that site is owned by the Crown Estates.
Oh, rip.
One of my favourite bits is they have a huge amount of land and buildings in central London. So the entirety of Regent Street, all the buildings on it, all of it belongs to the Crown Estates and therefore to the Crown.
Cool.
And they own like half the buildings in and around St. James's Park. Those also all belong to the Crown. And the last time they did an interview in some fucking real estate magazine, I think. And I thought, Jamie, you would appreciate this. They're talking about their schedule of because they have restaurants and things that lease their space. And one of the things they're currently working on with a group called Wonderland Restaurants, who's teamed up with... and they've teamed up with Warner Brothers Consumer Products and DC Comics to launch the first fully immersive DC Comics inspired restaurant experience. That's going to open, I think, this year.
What does the Crown have to do with this? Sorry, I feel like I missed that part.
They own the building. They own the site.
The Snyder Cut. Fucking of the Crown. Can you imagine if Zack Snyder directed The Crown?
Oh, fucking hell, man. Oh.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Is this going to end?
The royal family teaming up with Detective Comics at last.
Is this going to end with you telling us that the woods is somehow going to be owned by the Crown?
Well, the Crown does own nearly 25,000 hectares of forestry in the UK, so it's very probable that the woods near you are indeed owned by the Crown.
Oh no, you know which woods I'm talking about.
I know which wood you. No, I don't think. I will check, but I don't think those are held by the Crown Estate. They do
not because they
also
were built.
own...
They weren't on the seabed. They were on a riverbed, weren't they? So
yeah. I mean, for now.
Yeah. In the future, everyone will own beachfront property for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Think about how much extra international waters that's going to create as well. So David, just to make sure, there's also Crown Estate Scotland, which is a different legal entity because of devolution, where they own 4 massive estates in the Speyside and in the Borderlands. With forestry and agriculture and stuff. But they also own some other things, specifically in Scotland, including the right to all wild salmon and trout fishing.
Cool, yep.
Because the fish belong to Brenda.
Yep. UK fishing waters gets a whole new meaning.
And they also own the rights to all naturally occurring gold and silver in Scotland, which is why panning for gold in like a Scottish stream is illegal, because technically if you find a crumb of gold, you're stealing from the Queen.
Oh.
I'm sorry, that's just stupid.
Well, I know what I'm doing this fucking weekend.
That's incredible.
Eating a swan and panning for gold.
Just to say fuck you to Liz.
If the crown owns all the fish, does that mean does the Queen have to file eel paperwork?
Oh god!
Is there a lot of naturally occurring gold in the British Isles?
No, not that much. I looked it up. The last gold and silver mines, which were all owned by the Crown, closed. I think about 50 or 100 years ago. So there's no more mining, but there is like trace amounts. So you could pan for gold, just not in Scotland.
I mean, after Gordon Brown spent it all, like, yeah, I can see why she's that protective. Man.
But yeah, David, if this weekend you don't feel like panning for gold, but you want to go to the seaside, you could steal from the Crown Estates in another way, because all native mussels and oysters in Scotland, excluding those cultivated, also belong to the Crown Estates. So if you go for a swim and you pick up a mussel, technically you're stealing from the Crown Estates.
Fucking... Honestly, why do they make crime so easy?
Excuse me, sir, can you open your bag? I see illegal mussels in your bag.
Fucking...
So is that treason?
You can't even have a license for that.
Does that count as treason if you're stealing from the Crown, or is that a different charge?
I think that's probably it. I'm not sure.
Stealing clams from the Crown. Get put in the Tower of London. Made an example of. Thrown to Guantanamo for fucking,
Oh, but yeah, what other fucking stupid things are there in Scotland? Is there anything else that I can do that's going to get me in trouble with the Crown?
Well, they also own a huge amount. Again, this is the offshore shit. In 2020, the Crown Estate earned 230 million quid for leasing seabed, not just for wind turbines, but also for oil and gas extraction. So the crown becomes wealthier the more oil and gas we extract and the more the planet burns, which is obviously a very comfortable arrangement.
Excellent. Good. Yep.
Because once again, the crown estates do not have any mandate for sustainability or social anything. They just have a mandate for making money. So that's what they do.
So they're just offering opportunities.
Flying fruit in from literally the opposite end of the earth.
Now that's the Duchy of Cornwall, which we'll get into later, because that doesn't actually belong to the Crown Estates. That is the personal property of the Prince of Wales, in this case, Charles. But yeah, would it surprise you to learn that they did a big survey of all their quote-unquote customers, and the people most dissatisfied under the Scottish Crown Estate were tenants, because they had no idea how their rents were set and also why they were set so high.
Tenants unhappy with landlords, news at 11.
Yeah. But because the
tenants should all get on Twitter and complain to like Owen Jones about the mould.
But because obviously, like, there's a very narrow gap between the Crown Estates and the state of Britain, capital S. If you can't really sue the Crown Estate, because essentially that means you're suing the government, because the Crown Estate is a very weird legal entity that exists somewhere between private, public, and the monarch. So it's really weird. So the purpose of the Crown Estate, as I say, is to generate money. It doesn't seem concerned with the environment. And if you remember, there was some reporting done quite good in The Guardian in February of this year. I don't know if you guys read it, about the Queen's consent. Did any of you guys read this?
No.
No.
Is that the thing that she wasn't able to give at the age of 13?
Is that the sequel to The Queen's Gambit?
No, Queen's consent is a little known or not very well understood piece of parliamentary procedure, where ministers must privately notify the Queen, in this case, about any clauses in draft bills that could be relevant to her personal property, including the Crown Estates, and they must get consent from the Queen in order to even debate those clauses. So if the Queen doesn't give consent, then there can be no parliamentary debate about issues that may materially affect the wealth of the Crown.
Okay.
So the Crown can essentially block out any parliamentary scrutiny or like extra taxes. And that is what has happened. Under the Guardian's reporting, I can't remember the time period, but 1,062 separate bills were subjected to this Queen's consent procedure, including laws to exclude Crown Estates from road safety rules, railway rules, housing rules, pension rules, animal welfare rules, and land policies that may affect any of the estates run by the Queen, or probably those through the Crown Estates.
And this is why Philip is a feminist.
She's gold busting it.
It's not really a surprise that something that can be abbreviated to QC is very normal.
But yeah, like essentially,
Queen's Council, right?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, what it means is just like that. Once again, the UK just revolves around property and extracting rents, and maybe the biggest property owner in the whole place, hidden by many layers, is of course the monarch, who can intervene in laws that may directly and negatively affect those holdings. So it's just like property ownership is just not just baked into the state, it is the function of the state. Like literally, like there's 14 billions worth of property, excluding the stuff in Scotland, that is run by the Crown, and that, you know, it's just property all the way down.
Yeah.
Do you reckon like this, like the British sort of obsession with home ownership and with like renterism, essentially, essentially comes from this? Comes from the fact that, the head of state is essentially the biggest landlord of them all. And
I don't think it does. just purely because it's so hidden. Like, it's obfuscated by layers and layers and layers of fucking just bureaucracy and shite, like, to the point where they tried
but I
really,
thought it's
really
like
hard to knock this out.
fairly like common knowledge. I thought it's fairly common knowledge that like the Queen owns like most land in the country, for example.
I think it is, but see if I don't think people really equate land with property. Like, in legal terms, land effectively does mean property. But like, if you know, in layman's terms, if you say, "Oh, somebody owns land," they'll picture a field. They won't picture like a fucking office building or something like that.
Well, if you remember a couple of years ago when I think
the house prices thing's just down to Thatcher, isn't it? Where it's like everyone can buy the council house.
Yeah. No, I reckon if anyone's to blame most for that, it's probably Thatcher. As with everything else.
But I mean, her close related cousins, the Duke of Westminster, I want to say. You remember he died a couple of years ago, and then his son, who was like 18 or 19 at the time, inherited a property empire of like 25 billion or something. The Grosvenor Estates, and that owns like most of central London. Like cool. And the largest landowner, David, I think in Scotland, is the Duke of Buccleuch, I want to say, also a close family friend of the royal family, and they have something like, I don't know, over 100,000 hectares. I think I want to say, I can't remember off the top of my head.
It sounds about right. Scotland's is like, if you think England's bad, like Scotland is so fucking bad for the way that the majority of land is owned by a tiny amount of people. It's really fucking bad. There has been some work kind of done to fix that in the Scottish Parliament. That's, you know, by someone whose name we won't mention because fuck them. But yeah, that's incredibly slow going, and there's no way to really fix all this shit without a fucking top-down reorganisation of everything.
Yeah.
Top-down,
so like,
by top-down reorganisation, do you mean guillotines?
Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
So like, that's just the stuff inside the Crown Estate. So that's like the 14 billion for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, plus the stuff in Scotland that I couldn't find a full value for. So there's also the not Crown Estate stuff, which is the private property in terms of the royal family, and her private income of Queen Elizabeth, known as the Privy Purse, includes the income of the Duchy of Lancaster, which is £1 billion a year, which is a giant portfolio of real estate and farmland in Lancashire, Greater Manchester, and Merseyside. And under the Queen's consent rule that we talked about earlier, there was a particular piece of legislation that was messed with to hide the actual income of the Queen from the Duchy of Lancaster. So we don't know how much income there is, but we do know that the Duchy of Lancaster, has assets in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, because that came out under the Panama Papers. So this is also held in trust for the nation, but Brenda made a personal profit of 16 million quid last year out of the Duchy of Lancaster, and together with the Dutch. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, like, isn't there a government position which, like a title, which has something to do with the Duchy of Lancaster? Like, didn't Michael Gove?
Yeah.
Some title.
Yes. Yeah, he's, I think, I can't remember what his thing is, but he's something like equerry to the Duchy of Lancaster or something.
Right. Because that's how he was being referred to in Parliament. Yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? And then like, oh, this is Michael Gove they're talking about.
Yeah, it's, I think the position is it's minister without portfolio, really, isn't it? But it's got its own, I think it's actually just a way to justify a full ministerial wage. Someone without giving them an actual job.
Yeah, but
it's just, the whole thing is like a fucking organised crime, though, isn't it? Like, they literally just like make shit up for their mates, and like, and there's just like no accountability or whatsoever, and they're just like, no, they can just get away with everything.
It's a way for Michael Gove to sound like a very important boy.
Okay, so formally, Michael Gove is the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, which
Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And formally, he's supposed to oversee like the day-to-day runnings of this thing, but obviously that's not a lot of work because there's a real staff that does that. So essentially, it allows him. It allows him to have a ministerial post without any real responsibility, and that's why
that's like the most failed son position. That's like the most failed son position. Like you can just imagine, like someone just literally made that for their son.
Well,
like, you know,
Keir Starmer's shadow cabinet has the first instance of a shadow chancellor, the Duchy of Lancaster, which is Rachel Reeves. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep. A made-up position for a made-up position.
So she's kind of shadow chancellor.
This is how she is. Like, you know, this is sort of remit creep or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Next thing you know, she's the actual shadow chancellor.
But there is an actual like formal title for a sinecure for a fail son, which is the Duchy of Cornwall, which brings in 600 million quid a year, or is valued at 600 million quid a year, which was established in 1337, and the income of which goes to the heir of the throne, Prince of Wales, which is obviously Prince Charles right now, and he gets about 18 million quid a year from the Duchy of Cornwall, which I think includes the apples and those disgusting biscuits. And weirdly enough, both in the Duchy of Cornwall and in the Duchy of Lancaster, if you or someone you know passes away and they don't have a will or family or like people to give the estate to, it gets taken by the Duchy of Cornwall or the Duchy of Lancaster. They can take intestate property as theirs.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's not that much a year, but it does happen. Like, their property grows year on year just from people dying without leaving a will or a family behind them. So, you know, the deaths of the common people can quite literally profit the crown. Specifically,
they must be doing fucking numbers the past 10 years then.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a bunch of other shit. There's Balmoral, the big estate, obviously in Scotland, David, which is estimated to be worth about 100 million quid. There's because it's got 50,000 acres of land around it. There's Sandringham, worth 50 million quid. There's a whole bunch of other shit. There's also the Queen's own racehorse collection, which won the Crown or Elizabeth personally nearly 7.5 million quid in prize money over the last 10 years because they keep winning races.
That's amazing.
They shouldn't be allowed to do that. I mean, that counts for the whole episode, but
This is some Peaky Blinders shit. It's amazing. Actual organized crime syndicate. Like, they don't even try to fucking hide it. It's incredible. They call themselves the fucking firm. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. They're laughing in our fucking faces. I mean, Andrew, like, in the wake of, like, Philip's death, is, like, literally, like, on camera, like, the BBC is, like, giving him fucking airtime. Like,
being the sad son again. Yeah.
Exactly, you know, and, like, fuck me, man. It's just incredible shit.
Yeah, he's gonna. He knows it would be deemed incredibly uncouth and un-British to like slate a guy just for being a massive paedophile when his dad's just died. And so he's gonna use the cover that gives him and like upgrade.
I mean, is there anything more British than being a fucking paedophile? Like,
not really, like no. But he's probably gonna upgrade his Caribbean sex island at this point. It'll be like medium St. James now.
Don't even want to know what Big St. James looks like. Great St. James. Actually, to be honest, Great Britain is Great St. James. Let's be fucking honest.
Isn't Great St. James just Australia?
Oh dear.
But yeah, Aarjan, you were saying like that they don't even bother to hide how much they're a crime syndicate. Well, they do hide it, but that's actually allowed by law, because in the 1970s the government introduced a clause into like the current big transparency measures, and the government has the power to exempt specifically heads of state from those rules.
Oh my god!
How handy!
Yeah. That's really weird. So not only like does the Crown never have to say how much it is they actually own and what it is they own, but by law they also, the Queen and the Prince of Wales specifically, so the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, but not the Crown estates, I think, they don't have to pay income tax, capital gain tax, inheritance tax, but because, you know, they know it's a bad look, they have agreed to pay some income tax voluntarily, but we're just not allowed to know how much they are paying in income tax.
And the best part of this is going to be the flag shaggers in your mentions that say, but you know they volunteered to pay tax.
Yeah. The excuse you always get is like, oh, but they bring in all the tourists. And it's like, no, they come for the fucking buildings and the art collection. Like, if we didn't have a royal family...
The Palace of Versailles, motherfuckers.
Yeah, we can let people into the fucking castles and charge to let them in.
Yeah.
I mean, there are obviously some tourists who come for the royal family themselves, but it's probably like a very small number. It's those.
But they're also incredibly annoying.
Yeah, you don't want
absolutely.
those people.
Those incredible weirdos that were on the telly when Thatcher died. Do you know what I mean? Like crying. The Americans crying. She was the people's princess. That will haunt me till the day I die. That, like, you know.
What? Was this a real thing? Come on, no way.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
People's pillow princess.
But I mean, we have to remember this is also like the people.
I think it's safe to say the real people's princess is that old Scottish woman that they had on the news when Thatcher died.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if she passes, are we also going to like stop all telly for a week? Because that would be justified.
Yeah, if I have to drive a bulldozer through the BBC personally. Yeah.
Bulldozer it.
But I mean, it's also the People's Crown. I think it's important to say because in 2010 there was a parliamentary inquiry into like the royal finances, and they found out that like they'd spent all the money and they were down to like the emergency reserves, and nobody knows how they did come to that point because they refused to say.
Enormous St. James.
But the royal household did ask for, on the cover of a government grant meant to benefit low-income families with home repairs, they applied for the same grant to help fix the boilers in Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Have they considered, like, budgeting? There are apps for that.
Have they considered, like, having less avocado on toast?
Yeah.
I mean, but with like the Elon Musks of the world, you know, the price of adrenochrome is just through the roof. I mean, it's. I think.
Speaking of Elon Musk, though, sorry, just on
please.
Slightly different note. Like, speaking of Elon Musk, I don't know if it like just the clip surfaced the other day of his prototype of his fucking Hyperloop tunnel.
Oh yeah,
and my man has reinvented the fucking tunnel, except just made it like 1,000 times more dangerous because it's like a tiny tube that's made of metal, and like if anything goes wrong in there, everyone fucking dies, and you're like. And like what we already had the fucking underground. Like what is this?
Did you see that amazing tweet where the guy was like saying, oh well, someone had shared like a picture of that fucking contraption next to like the New York subway, and someone was like, yeah, but the one on the left like only cost like a fraction of the cost and was built in like a fraction of the time, and it's like, yeah, and it transports like one person in a fucking car at a time. Do you know what I mean? Like, and scale that up to the same like, you know, number of passengers per year as the fucking New York subway, and then tell me how much it cost and how long it took to build.
Because I was looking at that video, I watched through it like several times, and I couldn't see like any escape hatches or like stairs or like ladders for when shit goes wrong.
Right. Listen. No,
but like
you can't
you see this
expect
guy, like,
Elon Musk to build escape hatches. He can't even escape with his own fucking cars when they burst into flames.
This is what I mean. Like his cars burst into flames, his rockets burst into flames. Like there was a time when it felt like every fucking week we'd get a video on the timeline of a SpaceX rocket blowing up, and just like some guy streaming, watching it, looking really excited up until the moment then it blows up. I just genuinely don't understand. Like his, like that picture of him standing next to his. It's whatever his armored car with like the smashed windows. And even though technically that was actually okay. Like that is kind of how bulletproof glass works.
Yeah.
Like it does create like a little shatter effect, but it doesn't break the actual glass. But like it was obviously not great optics, and that picture is just, I don't know, like I can't tell if like this guy has been running the biggest scam, like, or if he genuinely is that fucking stupid and we are living in that sort of complete sort of Twilight Zone timeline where like this is what is considered the pinnacle of genius, and like there are so many people who are bought into it, and like
why not both?
It's just genuinely incredible.
He can use that teeny tiny little robot thing he built to get those kids out of that cave to rescue people from his tunnel.
The pedo submarine. Yeah.
God.
The motorized child coffin. Yeah, Elon Musk's biggest problem is that he believes like all the hype that like weird nerds give him on Twitter. Do you know what I mean? Like all the,
this is the thing.
People who
He is if like 2010 era 9gag was a person,
yeah,
and also had like $200 billion. Like it's just absolutely shocking. And like, this army of fucking like just the biggest dweebs, the biggest fucking clean shirts that you can imagine. Just like who will literally like die for this man. I just genuinely don't understand. It's baffling to me. It's absolutely fucking baffling to me.
They will all get the chance on Mars.
Snyder.
I still don't understand like how he wasn't arrested for insider trading when he did that tweet about Bitcoin to the moon, when he had like a $1 billion Bitcoin portfolio, so he directly profited. And he's done that multiple times. Like he also tweeted that he was going to take Tesla private, and that like fucking increased the value of the company by fuck knows how much, and therefore the stock price, which is like how he gets paid. It's just It's just scams. We live in the area of scams in the case of Elon Musk, and property. And if you're not running a scam, and if you don't own fucking half the country, then you're just fucked.
Like whatever agency it is in America that's like charged with investigating, is it the SIC? Or
yeah,
SEC.
SEC.
Yeah, they're just so like hopelessly underfunded. I think that they're just lagging behind like all of the actual financial crime in America by a couple of decades. So I imagine like sometime around 2050, when everyone in England's living on their own royal yacht, like we'll hear that like he's finally being charged just as he flees to Mars.
Well, at least, like, as we discussed before, like he'll just die on the journey there, and like I'm okay with
this. Is what I'm saying. At least that's a possibility, right?
Like all those, it's like all those weirdos who bought like tickets to go on like the Russian rocket, or Elon Musk's fucking libertarian hyperloop to Mars. It's just like, can you just leave today? Just fucking pack your shit, get the fuck out, and we'll just sort shit out. We'll take your property and just. We'll do something.
They'll all be leaving when that space hotel opens in like 2030 or whenever.
Oh, fuck.
There's no age of consent in space.
What is space but the most international of waters?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the one thing we didn't want to happen.
Right, Rob, will we get this tied up?
Yeah, just one final note on just how fucking scummy they are is that, and then we will really call it quits on this, is that currently a lot of the palace, especially the service staff, so the people who have to like, people like us who have to wear like a clean shirt and like wait hand and foot on these motherfuckers, they're currently being paid by 0-hour contract.
Yeah,
of course they
great. Yeah.
So that's about the final word on it. But like, if you want to reform the United Kingdom, if you want to bring about serious social change, you have to destroy the monarchy, because if you don't, the underpinnings, this fucking property empire alone, will ensure that you can never affect real change. That's like, it's important to understand that the royal household and everything around it is essentially just another fucking property scam. And it's really important, like, to understand, I think, Britain. Like, I think partly why we're so obsessed with home ownership and all that bullshit and prices, because it directly materially impacts, like, literally, you know, the rulers of this country.
Yeah.
It's a massive racket, isn't it?
It's like you said, it's Peaky Blinders, but it's got the government behind it. Like, that's pretty much all it fucking is.
It's the biggest racket of them all.
Yeah.
Well, shall we close this episode off then with a specially themed comment or commentariat in honour of Big Phildo? So
sending off Big Phil in style.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of the format of this. I've went through the papers, the websites for them at least, and I've picked out some choice selections from either bits of articles or from the comments section below, and it's your job to guess, is it comment or is it commentariat?
Okay.
So, those who admired the Duke of Edinburgh, and there are millions of us, should honour his memory by fighting back against the warped cult of woke that regards Philip and his ilk as racist, sexist, and all the other hysterical ists they deploy to silence decent people with a love of country and a belief that there are more important things in this life than self. How dare the toddler Marxists on Twitter accuse the generation that defeated fascism of being fascists? Good men died in order that they could take their freedom for granted. Those who live to tell the tale, like Prince Philip, never took it for granted. Comment or commentariat?
Commentariat.
Commentariat.
Oh, my brain hurts. Is this, what's her face? Is this Alison Pearson? It sounds like Alison Pearson.
It sounds like Brendan or something.
Yeah, I was thinking Spiked or Unheard.
Ooh, Unheard. Rob, you actually got it in one. It was Alison Pearson in the Telegraph. If the young Elizabeth were looking for a consort now, I don't know that she would ever find her, Philip. Men like him are as rare as hen's teeth these days, not least because the modern world seems to despise them so much. It never affected Prince Philip because he was far too old, but how many young men growing up today can afford to espouse his values? Values that society no longer sees as strengths, but weaknesses, unforgivable flaws even, the kind that require the sternest re-education at the hands of the woke garb. Comment or commentariat?
I don't know.
It seems like a very, very divorced comment to me.
I don't know if whoever wrote this has been outside lately, but like motherfuckers that espouse Philip's values are like 10 a penny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This country is fucking full of them. It's like you can't go 20 minutes without someone espousing Philip's values at you.
I can't imagine. Is this really somebody like drawing a contrast between Prince Philip and soy boys? Is that what this is essentially?
I mean, I'm going to say this is commentariat as well. To be honest, like, I think we might find out that all of them are going to be commentariat tonight.
Yeah, it's just
I have that feeling. Yeah. This feels like a very spiked again. Like, I don't know, like everything I'm just gonna think is spiked. Every time I hear the word woke, I just think spiked. Even though now it's like it's the Times as well. Yeah,
it definitely sounded like Fraser Cranium.
Or Spectator. Yeah.
Okay, doke. That was commentariat, and it was Sarah Vine in the Daily Mail.
The woman who's married to Michael Gove.
To the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster.
To the former Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster.
And she doesn't even appreciate it. They sleep in separate bedrooms.
Oh yeah,
she found her Philip.
A lady with a refined bookcase with David Irving on it.
Also, like, how can you like draw that contrast between like manly man Prince Philip and then presumably like the soy boy culture, look at Michael Gove and just say, yeah, he's in the mold of the manly man. Like, what the fuck?
Again, we've got it on good authority from Sarah Vine herself that Michael Gove is not that good in the old husbandly duties. So
yeah, imagine
Right,
Michael
Jordan.
Gove.
Imagine, like,
coming
stuff-
in, yeah.
Imagine him hovering over you.
Allegedly, probably, possibly, I don't know, stuffing his nose for the gack. I don't know, like, how he has time for, being a dutiful husband. I don't know. Probably gets in the way of their relationship.
He was the very antithesis of the modern left-wing tolerate-everything PC culture. The sort of person who, if not shrouded in privilege, would have been a real target of the modern progressive, knee-bending Rainbow Brigade. A person not cowed by modern culture and quite prepared to speak his mind. A rarity these days and a real breath of fresh air. Comment or commentariat.
Is this Richard Littlejohn?
I'm gonna go with commentary again.
Yeah.
Is this Brendan No Forehead, Brendan Hat?
This was a comment.
Huh?
Yep, a comment from the Daily Mail.
Oh, cool.
I think that was actually on the same as that Sarah Vine article.
Oh, Jesus.
A
It's just
rare
like,
breed of
yeah,
man.
he was this great guy who spoke. It's like, yeah, we just don't we don't have gollywogs anymore either. Like, that was not cool then. It's not cool now. What the fuck? Like, that's not something to harken back to. Like, what is this shit?
It's just it's wild to me that people like carry on like, oh well, he was a product of his time. It's like lots of people were around in like those, you know what I mean, in his time that weren't like racist. You know what I mean?
I reckon though. I was just going to say that, like, Boris Johnson, like, really takes after the mold of this particular archetype, like the sort of, the posh, racist, but, like, buffoon, like, who's constantly making gaffes and howlers and whatnot. And, and I reckon the fact that, like, Boris Johnson is the current PM also has a lot to do with the fact that, like, there's been this rehabilitation of this image. And because it's just about normalizing like this casual racism and like like I was saying earlier as well, even like 5, 6 or maybe like 10 years ago, like him being like the topic of like normie humor, to now being this like this revered fucking like figure, public figure or something, and it's just it's bizarre and like I don't know, like. I reckon, like I said, like Boris Johnson being PM maybe has something to do with it as well.
I really like the framing
sure.
of that comment where it's like, if this incredibly rich man wasn't rich, it would be a classist attack on men to have a go at him. And also, progressives have been having a go at him. That's the point.
Yeah, did you see that fucking Jeremy Vine tweet where he was just like, not today. If you have bad things to say, today we are a nation in mourning. It's like, no, we're fucking not. Just piss off with that.
Yeah.
Can't believe he died at the young age of 99.
Tragic.
I know. Cut short. Hate to see it. Right, next one. I wonder if the Premier League will be marking the death of Prince Philip with a moment of reflection before every single game for over a year, like they have for that other great British hero, George Floyd. Comment or commentary?
Oh,
I'm going to say commentary.
Oh my god.
That could be spectator, right?
Oh my god. Wow.
Sorry, I didn't.
Also,
That seems like comment. That seems like a comment to me too.
Sorry, I didn't get that last line. What was the line about George Floyd?
Like they have for that other great British hero, George Floyd.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
yeah. And also, the football did mark Prince Philip's death, and then players took the knee straight afterwards.
Yeah. The minute silence where people were setting off fireworks.
Yes, that's
That's true British culture.
Silent disco during the minute of silence.
Right, what do we reckon then? Comment or commentary?
Commentary.
Commentary.
I'll take comment.
It was a comment, and that comment came from the conservative woman.
Ah! Oh, man.
An exceptionally cursed website.
It's my favorite one.
It really, yeah. Right.
Tradwives.com.
No,
that's a different website.
Are you guys not familiar with Conservative Woman? Oh man,
nobody's familiar with Conservative Woman.
I'm
I'm convinced it's a website you made up just to, like, you know what I mean? Have like a fucking wild card in this game.
I assure you it is a real website. Right. This is the last one. It is a long one, but it's worth it.
Alright, I'm bracing.
If it's a long one, commentariat.
No, not always. We know fine well that people write fucking screeds in those bastard comments. Mussolini, while in charge of Italy, this monumental racist best buddy of Hitler
already, isn't it?
and best buddy of Hitler oversaw ethnic cleansing on a grand scale, concentration camps, deployment of chemical weapons, and the summary killing of women and children. He was not a nice fella. But 20-year-old Prince Philip was happy to face the constant threat of 15-inch Italian shells blowing him to bits to fight him.
No, he didn't.
Do you see the difference? An actual fascist, not just someone who made the occasional fairly unpleasant remark, and a man fighting those fascists not with a lame tweet, but by putting himself in the way of fascist bullets and bombs. No less an anti-fascist than Barack Obama had this advice for the perennially woke and their hyper-binary, tweet-infested world. Quote, "The world is messy, there are ambiguities. People who do really good stuff have flaws. There is a sense sometimes that the way of making any change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people, and that's enough. That's not activism, that's not bringing about change. If all you're doing is casting stones, you're probably not going to get that far," end quote. And if there ever was a bloke who knew a thing or two about achieving real change and achieving it the hard way, it's probably the first black president of the United States of America. Comment or commentariat?
I'm sticking
this
with
is maybe the most.
I think it's very telling that, like, their example there of, like, anti-fascism and not just sending mean tweets. But their version of really fighting the fascists wasn't, like, actually doing physical harm to the fascists. It was being shot at by fascists.
But, the beginning is quite special because he didn't want to give Kenya back to the Kenyans. They were doing all of that stuff for British.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, all that stuff with, like, gas and concentration camps. It's like, that was the British Empire too, buddy. It's just like... What?
We did that first.
Oh, Jesus.
Commentariat, yeah.
Any other takers?
Yeah, commentary. I reckon, like, yeah.
I'm going to say comment then.
Brendan.
I'm going to say comment as well. Yeah, I'm going to say comment as well. I'm going to join Nikita.
That was commentariat, and it was Paul Baldwin writing for the Daily Express.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
No, you wouldn't be, because the Daily Express has...
Baldwin by name, Baldwin by nature.
The Daily Express.
Mr. Balding.
I mean, I've never heard of the guy before, but he sounds like a weapons-grade weapon.
Yeah.
The one shot up. That's pretty spell it.
The Daily Express is full of these, like, absolute no marks just writing their fucking piece. It's really a fantastic place for some of the worst opinions out.
They also have, like, all the little pictures of the writers at the start of the article, and they all look like inbred frogs. Like, every single one of them.
Oh yeah, every single one of them is a failed clone of Tim Martin.
It's just because they don't have as good of a makeup team as, like, the people at the Times do, and, like, once they get the job at the Times, they'll get a slightly better mugshot.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. I've seen the mugshot of Charles Moore.
That's what the paywall. That's what the paywall does for you.
Exactly. Get you a makeup team.
Maybe that's why.
Lighting.
Maybe that's why Keith's always in the Times to get access to the superior makeup team.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Well, I think that'll do us for this week. Aarjan, Nikita, thanks very much for coming on. Is there anything like
plug? Probably our podcast.
That would
we do a podcast called Leftover, and we do episodes like every Friday, pretty much.
We'll check the flex with the regular episode schedule.
Yeah, trying to. I don't know, but it's been good. It's been a good laugh, and thanks a lot for having us on as well. It's been
thanks
really
for coming
fun today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on.
It's been great.
Also, listen to Leftover. It's cool. It's a good pod. It's good.
Thank you.
Definitely do. Have you got a Patreon or anything like that as well?
We do. So patreon.com/leftoverpod, please.
Yes. Great.
Cool. We should really get one of those.
You should.
In time. All in time. Like I say, thanks very much for coming on. It's been great having you. Finally, we've spoke about this for about fucking months now to try and get you on, so glad we finally done it.
No, it's been great. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sure there'll be sort of collaborations in the future as well. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Right, well, just leaves it to say goodbye then, and we'll catch you all on the next episode.
Yeah, and also buy our t-shirts and shit on Teespring. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also do that.
Really.
Right.
Very good.
Cheerio, folks.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.